Hey, what up? My name is Sky, like the big blue sky, and today I'm gonna walk you through our process for creating high quality prompts for cold email intro line personalization. Now, there are a ton of different ways you could do this, but what I'm gonna show you today is what's worked really well for us and for our clients when it comes to creating really high quality prompts, along with how to scale your prompts across thousands of contacts in Clay. Let's dive in. So the framework that we use when creating prompts is an anagram that we call the PORT framework. So P-O-R-T. And you can easily remember this framework because in order to ship your personalized lines, you must first prepare everything that you need at the port. So what does PORT stand for? First, we have P, which stands for perspective. And this is basically the role or the perspective that you want the AI to take. So do you want the AI to be a researcher, a digital marketer, a cold email, whatever it is that fits your specific task? The first part of your prompt is going to be the perspective or the role that you want the AI to take. Next, we have O, which stands for objective. And this is where you're going to outline the task or the objective that you want the AI to complete for you. Whether that's writing a cold email, writing just the personalized intro line, building a marketing plan, whatever the task is, after you've given the AI its perspective, or you're gonna tell it who it's going to be, next you will give it its objective and tell it what it's going to do. Then we have R, which stands for rules. And these are the specific rules that you want the AI to follow as it completes its objective for you. And now to take this even further, there are 3 subcomponents to the rules that you want to give the AI. They're going to help you get high quality completions on your first try. And those subcomponents are 1, the tone, right? So do you want the AI to write in a casual tone or a formal tone? You've got to let it know. The next one is the format. So how long do you want the writing to be? Do you want it to write the entire email, just the personalized line? It really depends on what you're looking for, but you gotta let the AI know. And then the third one is focus. And this is the one that most people miss. Because what I see a lot of times is that people will feed the AI a whole bunch of information to use as context to generate personalization, but the AI doesn't really know what it should focus on, and so it will just pick random things and generate personalization based on these random bits of information. And what that leads to is maybe the personalized line that you're trying to get it to generate is a little bit awkward, or it's out of place, or it's irrelevant. And one way that you can solve for this is by giving the AI a specific focus. And then finally we have T, which stands for text. And this is where you're going to give the AI all of the text or the context that it's going to reference in order to generate the personalized line for you. So okay, let's take a look at an example of how this is applied. And to save us some time, I'm going to show you a fully built out prompt and we're going to break it down step by step. So okay, in this doc here, you can see we've got PORT, P for perspective, O objective, R rules, T is text. And then here is our prompt. And so very first thing, we've got the perspective. So you are a world-class director of business development for an SEO and paid ads agency. So whatever role you want the AI to take, you're gonna outline that first. Next, in red, we have the objective. So what is it going to do? You're gonna do research on these types of companies in this industry so you can write personalized cold emails to them. Write a personalized line for a cold email using the input that I provide you. Then in green, we've got all of the rules. And as I hope you can tell here, there's a lot of rules. And so in my experience, it takes some iterations and it takes quite a few rules to figure out what's gonna work the best for you and for your prompt to generate the completion that you need. But typically this is gonna be the beefiest part of your prompt. And so let's take a look at some of the subcomponents here. First, we've got the tone. Make sure the line is short, conversational, casual, and concise. It's a little bit redundant, but again, in my experience, what I've found is that sometimes the redundancy and saying it in different ways in the same prompt, it really helps to drive the point home and give you the completions that you want. Next, we've got the focus. So identify one unique or standout feature about an organization from the given input and formulate a first line of an email expressing interest and appreciation of that feature. Aim for a concise, relevant, authentic expression of appreciation for the standout feature of the organization, right? And so again, we're telling it to find one unique or standout feature. So this is where you can really have the AI be specific in what it's going to reference in the cold email, as opposed to just being kind of general and fluffy with its language. We are directing its focus and telling it how or what lens to look through in order to generate its completion. And then finally here we've got format. You don't necessarily have to add these components in this order. Maybe there's other components that are going to work well for you. This is just what I have found works really well for us. So finally, format. The chosen feature should allow for a seamless transition to the next part of the email, creating continuity. Only write the personalized line, not any other parts of the email. Avoid seeming over-eager and using exclamation points. So this is a really common theme that I see happen with AI generating lines, is it uses these really dramatic declarative statements like, wow, impressive. And I don't want it to talk like that. I want it to be more casual and not over-eager, not use a bunch of exclamation points. Finally, don't put their name in the line and make sure it doesn't exceed more than 1 line or 15 words. The last part here, this is just something that anecdotally I have found works well, but telling it to double check before it provides a completion is super helpful. And then finally, here is the input, and this is where all of your text afterwards, the context about what you want it to reference, would go. So okay, let's actually apply this and use this prompt in ChatGPT and see what kind of line it will generate for us. And for context here, what I'm going to use is I've got a couple websites. I've scraped the text of these websites in Clay, and I'm going to feed that information into ChatGPT and combine it with the prompt in order to generate the completion. And so again, this is just my experience. There's a lot of folks in the Clay community who will tell you not to use the scraped text from the website because sometimes the body text is going to be too large for OpenAI to use. It's going to be too many tokens, and so it won't be able to generate the completion. That is true, and you will run into that. But what I have found is that a lot of times the scraped website text, it has more specific information. It has a lot more information than using the LinkedIn company bio as the reference point. And so when you provide that context to the AI, it's going to be able to generate a lot higher quality lines than it would referencing the about section on their company LinkedIn profile. And additionally, I mean, if you're looking at like med spas or the beauty industry, a lot of these folks aren't really that active on LinkedIn anyways. And so you're better off using the scraped website text. And to take it further, what we do to account for those situations where the text is too much for the AI to process and it's too many tokens, we have essentially a waterfall of actions or prompts. So we'll start with the scrape website, and then let's say it's too many tokens and it doesn't work. So there's rules to where it won't run, and if this doesn't run, then the next one will run, and then we'll enrich the LinkedIn profile. And so we'll use the lower quality source or the LinkedIn profile as the secondary action there based on rules on whether or not the actual completion is generated. But okay, let's take a look. So I've already done this for you just to save time. So as you can see, we've got the prompt here, and then I took all of this scraped text and I provided it as the input into ChatGPT to generate a line. And as you can see here, we've got our line. And for context, the truth of the matter is you can really only do so much with one singular standalone prompt. Because what I'm not trying to do is go line by line, company by company, prompt by prompt to create these individual personalized lines that I can then copy and paste into emails. What I'm actually accomplishing here is I'm trying to create my training data that I'm going to use in Clay to scale this across a bunch of rows. And what I mean by that is like, okay, we're going to refine the prompt and we're going to make sure that it's as high quality as possible before we go and we put this into Clay. But because we know that we can only accomplish so much with a singular standalone prompt, the other mechanism here that we're going to use to drive higher quality completions is by providing prompt completion pairs as examples. And so what I'm really doing in ChatGPT is I'm using it to help me very quickly create my training data that I'm going to input into Clay, and this is going to help me improve my lines even more. And so within here, I'm going to have prompt, all of the example text, and then an example line. And then the same thing for another company, line. Same thing for another company, line. And I'm gonna do 3, maybe 5 of these examples, and that combined with the refinement of your prompt is going to give you a lot higher quality of a completion or a personalized line. But as you're building the training data, a lot of times you're not going to get the absolute perfect line here. So like, what can you do in this situation to try and improve the quality of the line? You can just follow up with a very simple prompt to try and make it better, but sometimes it still doesn't really hit the nail on the head. And so keep in mind, again, here, what we're doing is we are creating training data. And so what that means is that maybe I should just manually write this line and provide it to ChatGPT in Clay and be like, hey, here's an example of what a high quality line looks like. It doesn't matter if you manually wrote it, if AI wrote it, as long as it's to the standard that you want it to be, then you can use it. But just make sure if you manually adjust and write these lines that you're not using any information that can't be found in the scraped text that you're going to be providing, because it's obviously not going to be able to reference that information, and so it just won't work. So just make sure, because this line here, not very good. I probably wouldn't use this. It's close, it's directionally right, it's following my rules, but it's not how I would write it. And so at this point, I would probably take this manually, make some small adjustments, and then I would provide it to ChatGPT or into Clay as an example here. And then I would repeat that across multiple companies to continue providing these examples to then generate the personalization. But okay, as kind of a more cautionary note, what you don't want to do is just use this framework, scrape some text, and then start throwing this into Clay to try and scale it. You want to make sure that you want to test this essentially in ChatGPT first and make sure that the lines are at least like 70 to 80% of what you want. It's following all the rules. It's pretty close to the quality or the standard that you want. And then from there, if you need to make some manual adjustments, you can, but you want to make sure that the AI by itself is at least getting you like 70 to 80% of the way there. If it's not, then you need to make adjustments to your prompt, and you need to add more rules. You need to be more specific with the objective, or you need to do a better job outlining the perspective that the AI should take. But let's say you've done it a bunch of times and you're having trouble figuring out what to add or subtract to your prompt to get it to like at least 70 to 80% of the way there. What I like to do is actually like to use ChatGPT to help me come up with what is missing in my prompt. And so what I'll do is I will provide ChatGPT with all of the text. I'll provide it with all of the context that it's going to use to generate the personalization. And then I will provide it with my manually written completion that is the ideal standard. And I'll say, okay, here is the text that you would otherwise reference to create a line. Here is an example of an ideal line. Now you create a prompt that I can use. So let's take a look at an example of how we've done that. So in here, we've got all of the text to reference for the line. We've got a completion as a standard that we want it to be. And then we're telling it that like, hey, you're a VP of business development, you're building a cold email campaign, and you're using AI to write personalized lines. Now you're gonna tell it, I'm gonna give you the input that you would use and all of the context. I'm gonna tell you the completion. What I want you to do is provide me with the highest quality prompt that I could repeatedly use to continue generating completions that are the same quality across a larger list. And so now what it's gonna give you is this. And so what this isn't gonna be usable for is just as your standalone prompt. So I wouldn't take this and now try and put this into Clay and scale it across all of these rows. What I would do is I would now take this language and I would copy and I would paste it into your original prompt that you created using the Port framework, give it the text again, and see how it changes your completion. If it's still not quite there, tell it to expand. Be like, hey, give me more things that I can use to improve this prompt. And it's gonna break it down for you. It's gonna give you an even longer prompt, and you can continue to refine it and have the AI help you, tell you what it's missing, what missing pieces of language you should add into your prompt to get it 70 to 80% of the way there. Then at that point, once you've got the prompt refined, you can go ahead, use that prompt to generate your training data, manually adjust the training data as needed, add your examples, and then you can come in here and you can run this across many, many, many more rows. So you might have some ideas about how to improve this process or improve these prompts. If you do, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your perspective or if you found this video useful. But other than that, that's all I got for you today. If you found this video useful, please hit the like and subscribe button below. It helps the channel out a lot. And I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you in the next video.